It was a lot of surprises on TNA Impact tonight, but it wasn't a great show. It started off Joe Hendry doing a concert once again, and I realized what they're doing with Joe Hendry's title reign. Essentially, what they're doing is they want to make it kind of like what John Cena's U.S. Open Challenge was, how he had just defend the championship against anybody, take on all comers. That's essentially what Joe Hendry is doing. But my problem with that is that this is his first world title, so I don't think that's a gimmick he should be doing. Being a obviously I get being a fighting champion, that's cool, but it's not gonna be a lot of prominent feuds in this title reign. At least that's what they're making it seem like. Because who he was interrupted by was the Colognes making their tag team debut, and you bring in a new team for, and then they lose in the main event, which we'll get to later. But you bring in a new tag team and had them lose on their debut. So really, tonight's episode of Impact was really confusing. Like, it had some good surprises, but it was a really confusing episode, and some of the decisions didn't make a lot of sense. So then you had the Colognes come out there, and it's a good surprise, but it's like they're a tag team, so why are they out here challenging Joe Hendry, trying to attack him? Then Elijah, formerly known as Elias in WWE, he makes his TNA debut. So now you have 3 debuts in one night, which is cool, but then you have all 3 of them in the same match later that night, and somebody has to take the loss. And obviously the Colognes, they was in WWE a while back, in case y'all forgot. But then you get the tag team match set up with Elijah and Joe Hendry against the Colognes to end that's going to be the main event later in the night, and I'm going to get to that later in the video. Then next you had a Leon Slater promo, and it's basically the same stuff he said last week, of how he's not a kid, this and that. It doesn't really do anything. We know the match is happening. You said the same stuff the last few weeks, and then it's just more segments after segments after segments. It's not a lot of wrestling going on at this point. Then you cut to a backstage segment with the Colognes once again, which was pointless. It served no purpose. They already had a segment coming out there trying to attack Joe Hendry. It's no reason for them to get another segment just moments later. So then you have Tyson and Tyreek take on the Rascals, and it was a fun match. It was a short match, but it was fun. I think both teams was able to get their moves in. And like I said last week, I think just because it's short doesn't mean it's bad. And this was an example of a short match that was good, and both teams looked solid in the match. Wesley tried to get involved. Ace Austin, he was out there to stop him. Then Wesley, he got a promo. He was like, this is why I left y'all, because it don't make sense how y'all cool all of a sudden with the stuff that the Rascals and ABC went through in their tag team rivalry. So then a 6-man tag team match was made for Sacrifice. So they did a good job telling the story in this match. You got the 6-man tag team match made for the pay-per-view. So that's cool. And then you still got the NXT TNA invasion thing going on. I saw like that. That was definitely a high spot, a high point of the show. Then you had First Class come out there and cut a promo. Had these women out there, had these guys out there. It served no purpose. AJ Francis, I think he had some funny moments in the promo, but it served no purpose. It's not, they aren't going after the titles. Like they mentioned, they want to go after the world tag team titles, but they're not calling out the champs. They're not calling out the Hardys to come out there. So it's like, what's the point of the promo if you're not calling out a champ, or you're not going to call out the Moose for the X Division title? So it's like they're just cutting the promo for no reason. It's like, I think the funny part is him saying that he was such a huge Macho Man fan that he hated Hulk Hogan before it was famous or fun to do. It was something along those lines. Like the promo wasn't bad, but it just didn't serve any purpose. It was kind of pointless. That was my problem with them coming out there and cutting that promo. Then you had Rosemary versus Lee Ching Lee, and the match didn't make any sense because Rosemary dominated a majority of the match. And sometimes it makes sense for a person to dominate the majority of the match, and then they end up taking the loss because they get too cocky or too arrogant. But you don't have that story here. It's really not. It's not the story you have going into this match like this. And I forgot how the match got made, but Rosemary should have had to win. She just lost the title match at the pay-per-view last month. So it's like her taking this loss after dominating most of the match. That threw me off as well. So, and then she spit the mist in her face after the match, and it was like, okay, they'll probably continue this feud, but then you get backstage and she's getting, and Ying, she's getting checked on by the trainer, and then Tessa Blanchard, she was like, I need you to not worry about her because I need to get my physical pass, this and that. That also really threw me off. That was just a confusing moment in the show, and it seemed kind of stupid. Then in between there, you had Mance Warner and Sami Callihan. They had a mini brawl once again. They're finally gonna have a match next week. Hopefully, it's a good match because with all the brawls and the segments they're doing, the payoff better be a good match on Impact next week. It better start the show or be the main event, or if it's in the middle, it better be a good match. That's all I'm expecting from it. Then you had another segment, and this is my main problem. It was a lot of segments. The segments outweighed the wrestling, and I don't think most of these segments didn't really advance the stories. Like Eric Young, he cut a promo talking about how he got rid of Josh Alexander. Then he called out Steve Maclin because he wanted to be by his side. Steve Maclin made it clear he doesn't want to be by Eric Young, with him being next to the Northern Armory after what they just put them through. So it made sense. Now I don't know if Mike Santana was in like a rehab meeting or something. It was some type of meeting he was in. Then Mustafa Ali, he came to talk his stuff, not directly to Mike Santana, but he was just talking like he was part of it. Then he said something to Mike Santana, obviously building their feud. So I did enjoy that, even though it's a lot of segments. That made sense because you got to keep building that story. Their payoff probably will be a match at Sacrifice. I can see it, and they're leading to a #1 contendership match for a title like the X Division title, or going after the digital media title if that's defended by Mance Warner at some point. Then you finally get to JDC versus Leon Slater in a no DQ match. This was a fun match. It had some cool spots. The Swanton 450 through the table, that was a great spot by Leon Slater. Him and JDC put on a good match. Then the System, they got involved. I was actually surprised when they did get involved because the match had went on for so long without them being there. Like, it was a solid 14-15 minute match, it felt like. And then the System finally got involved towards the end of it, helping JDC get the win, which I wish they would have let Leon Slater get the win. Then you just had the System attack him after the match. But I understand why they did it, having JDC win this match. The System getting involved. Then the Hardy Boys, they tried to even up the odds. Obviously, they were still outnumbered. They tried to come down there and help out Leon Slater. Wasn't enough. Then you get Obafemi, which that was a big surprise because obviously you had Moose come on in NXT this past week. So now they got Obafemi to come on TNA. And then he coming there to stand tall with the Hardy Boys and Leon Slater to help them. Now he's going to be teaming up with the Hardy Boys next week to take on the System. And that's going to be a fun match. That was a cool surprise. I don't know when they're going to do Moose and Obafemi. But when they do, it's going to be a hard-hitting match. And they're doing a great job building up the feud for whenever they do have a match. So I did enjoy that. Then this is where stuff continued to get even more confusing. Since Tessa Blanchard didn't get her physical, she could refuse to have a match. She came out there in no type of wrestling gear. She came out there like she was going to go out to a nightclub. So like she had no intentions of wrestling. That's how clear she made it. And then Santino, he came out there, he was like, if you don't wrestle next week, I'm firing you. But then you tell her there'll be consequences last week if she didn't wrestle this week. So now it's hard for me to believe anything Santino says, because you said last week, if you don't wrestle next week, there's going to be serious consequences, and nothing happened. So now you threaten to fire her if she doesn't wrestle next week. But what if she doesn't wrestle next week? I'm not convinced that you will fire her. And then whoever she wrestles, it's going to be some random. It's not going to be some actual talent. Like, she had a good match with Jordan Grace. You can put her against other good women on the brand. You can put her in a match against Ariana Grace, had that for like 5 to 7 minutes to have Tessa Blanchard win. And then Masha Slamovich came out there and she wants to fight Tessa Blanchard for whatever reason. And then she ended up taking on who Tessa Blanchard was supposed to face, which was Milla Moore or something like that. It was a short match. Masha made quick work of her, won the match. Then Cora Jade came out there and attacked her. And they've been building that story for a solid few weeks now. So Cora Jade's getting another championship opportunity. Now, it would be cool if they let Cora Jade win, and you go deeper into that NXT TNA rivalry. If you have an NXT star beat a TNA star for the belt, it's unlikely, but I like to see them explore that route. But Cora Jade finna lose back-to-back title matches. That's diabolical work. And then you had the Elegance brand and Spitfire with another backstage segment. Like, you should have just gave them the rematch. Obviously, the wrong person was the ineligible person. The match ended up getting the pin for Spitfire to get the win. So it makes sense that Elegance wants the rematch, but the fact that it took this long to get it doesn't really make sense. But they're getting the rematch next week. Their match at what's the pay-per-view? Rebellion, if I'm not mistaken, the January pay-per-view. It was a fun match. I think this one will be solid too. But it only makes, actually, Spitfire could win. No, not Spit. The Elegance brand could win it, but I'm not sure. It could go either way for sure. And then I left out this, but Ron Nemeth, he could have hit. Ron Nemeth served no purpose. Not like he's actually, he's annoying. Like, he's an annoying heel, so I don't mind it. But he came out there and cut a promo, and he was like, my brother will be returning in 22 days at Sacrifice. On him reminding us that Nick Nemeth is still suspended doesn't really do anything. And it doesn't progress anything. It's like Ron Nemeth cut a pointless promo. And then you had the main event, the Colognes versus Joe Hendry and Elijah. A solid match. It was a good tag team match, but Joe Hendry's goal is fighting every week, defending every week. That's not defending, and I don't think he should be in tag team matches that don't help progress the storylines that he's in, because he's not in any story right now as the world champion. Him and Elijah got the win. Now, if they were to explore the route of Elijah turning on Joe Hendry, or if they do that match at some point, I think that could be a cool story. But having him involved in the Colognes and their debut doesn't make sense. Then having the Colognes lose on their debut on Impact doesn't make sense either. Like, they're a new tag team. If you want to build up the tag team division, you should put them against one of your weaker tag teams so they can pick up a win. You should put Elijah against one of your weaker single stars so he can also get a win, because he got the pin in this match, so it works out well for him. But the Colognes make their tag team debut and lose. Usually when guys make their debut in a new company, they win. And it's not like they have to go on some long winning streak. Like, you can take losses, of course. It's wrestling. Everybody has to take losses, unless you're Rhea Ripley, who never loses. But that's neither here nor there. But I think they all should have been able to win in their debuts with the new company. This was a big night for all three of them. And it was a solid match, so you can't complain too much. But the stories the segments were all over the place and didn't really progress any stories. The matches it wasn't a great match on tonight's show. It was some solid matches for sure, and then there was some pointless matches, but not a single match was great. And TNA have been doing really well recently, but I will give this episode a 4 out of 10. It was a below average episode in my opinion. I didn't enjoy it. But leave your like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment what you thought about tonight's Impact. And did you enjoy it? Did you not? Let me know why in the comments.